Alright guys, hey everyone, welcome back to It's a Really Useful Podcast. Today we are going to be exploring a very interesting little railway. A railway that a lot of people said it would be impossible to build and everything, and even more so, impossible to operate and everything. But pretty much scientists, technologies, and pretty much crazy people have proved all of them wrong, as this railway was a very big success. That's right, today we are taking a look at the Mountain Railway with AKA Mountain Engines. I'm Sodor Diesel, I'm here with my good friend
Bonnie, also known as OT.7. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 20 and our very first original book of the series.
Pretty much, yes. If you remember in the last episode and everything, pretty much that, even though that the majority of the series books, even if not all the stories from the books were adapted into television, pretty much the majority of them were still adapted into television in one way or another. That is, what was originally except for 3 books. Now, pretty much now, there are only 2 books in the entire series that, so far, have never been adapted into TV in any way, shape, or form. And today, and pretty much today, we're going to be covering one of those books, Mountain Engines.
Yes, now, you may remember Culdee, Godred, and Lord Harry from this book. And because they were featured on merchandise a lot, and sometimes you're not alone on this. Sometimes you got that toy for Christmas and you thought, who the hell is Culdee?
Pretty much, yeah. Who was Culdee? Who was Lord Harry and everything as well too. Pretty much, I've also shared my experience with owning a Railway series character and a merchandise with Mike and such. And pretty much, I've always wondered who Mike was, because I never seen him once in the TV series growing up and everything. And pretty much it wasn't until years later that I found out, oh, okay, he's from the Railway series, okay. And pretty much, that pretty much. Somewhat completed my history or understanding about how Thomas the Tank Engine came to be about, and pretty much the 3 Mountain Engines were actually the same way as well too. Though they were never appeared in TV series, they still found their way through merchandises, whether it be mostly Wooden Railway. I believe there was a few take-alongs as well too, and pretty much Erdl too. Yeah, definitely Erdl as well.
I think the only 3 engines that were made for Erdl were Culdee, Godred, and Lord Harry. Oh, and also Catherine as well. Catherine was made for Erdl.
Yes, Catherine, and Catherine was also featured in the Wooden Railway as well too, because pretty much she does belong to Culdee, so.
Yeah. Aside from the fact that in one of the Wooden Railway toy sets they made her her own train, even though she needs an engine to pull her.
I mean, considering how Culdee sings high praise of her and how very important she is. She might, technically she could run the railway if she wanted to.
Yeah, you're right on that. Well, yeah, this book was never adapted into television, and mainly for 2 reasons. One is because, according to Robert Galliers, the art director for the original show, for Thomas and Friends, he said that the Culdee Fell engines were not very merchandisable. There's very little you can do with them.
Pretty much, and honestly, he was not the only one that felt the same way about them. Pretty much, even the Audreys felt the same way as well too. Because, like I said, this is the only book to feature the Mountain Engines in any way, shape, or form. And though Chris, and even though Chris might have been tempted, or at least was thinking about making another book series about them and everything, he pretty much stated that due to very strict safety regulations on the railway and everything too, pretty much Chris himself also had a very difficult time trying to come up with any kind of stories he wanted to make with his book without repeating the same plot line his father did with this book.
Yeah, and I don't blame him, because there's very little you can do with them. After reading the book, I was like, yeah, I can see where Robert Galliers and Chris and Wilbur were coming from, because there is absolutely very little you can do with them. Very little.
Pretty much. And I think another reason as well too is that unlike some of the other railways that we've seen in the Railway series before, and even a new railway that we're going to be seeing real soon after this one, pretty much the Mountain Engines they're only secluded into this one area, and that's the mountain itself. And pretty much when you're secluded to this one area, and pretty much all you can do is just really go up and down and everything, pretty much you don't really have that much creativity, or at least a creative room to make any kind of story without repeating yourself over and over. where pretty much like you can make any story involving Thomas on his branch line, or pretty much like what Scarlotti is doing on his railway, or pretty much, hey, you can even make a story as well too on like what Stephanie's doing on the Bluebell Railway as well too, because like there are lots of locations and lots of like places and characters that you could play along with and make any kind of story you want, honestly.
Yeah, and the Culdee Fell Railway is based on the Snowdown Mountain Railway in Wales.
Yes, which pretty much I think this was another situation where I think Wilbur like wanted to visit a railway for at least like a trip, right? Pretty much like my question is like, how did Wilbur know about the railway to begin with?
Well, basically, from what I was able to research, he was having some trouble coming up with ideas for new books, so he decided to visit the Snowdown Mountain Railway, and that's when he came up with the idea for the Culdee Fell Railway. Which honestly, the Culdee Fell has a very interesting history because both railways, the Snowdown Mountain and the Culdee Fell, opened years apart from each other. Like for example, the Snowdown Mountain Railway opened in 1896. And the Culdee Fell opened in 1900. So the Culdee Fell was basically under construction when Lattis had her accident. And in case anybody's wondering who Lattis is, I'll explain when we get to Bat Lookout.
Yes, pretty much be on the lookout for that. And honestly, it's very interesting that just said right at the beginning that Wilbur was having trouble like coming up with new story ideas and everything, which get used to it because, like, as we're going to see, it's going to be more and more apparent until we get to the final book itself.
Yes, especially when we get to his very final book.
Yes,
but honestly, he still delivered with this book. To be honest with you,
he did. Like honestly, because like I said, if you guys are familiar with like my old channel as well, or at least like the old videos and everything that I posted on the channel, pretty much you guys would probably recall that like I pretty much put Mountain Engines as like my all-time favorite railway series books. I put it at number 1 as well. And reading the book itself again and everything, I still had a lot of fun reading the book as well. Although I will say right here, right now, it is very possible that Mountain Engines might not be my number 1 book of all time after today and everything. But I will say there is still a high possibility that maybe I might still put it somewhere in the top 10 or maybe in the top 5. But honestly, we'll just wait and see until we get to the book itself. But honestly, before we do that, are there any other informations that? Okay, go ahead.
All right. So remember that we said just a seconds ago that we was running out of ideas. Well, basically, the idea for this book was actually based on an article he wrote for a magazine about the Snowdown Mountain Railway, and it went like this. It's pretty long, so I'll try to read it as fast as I can. The little engine panted and snorted, clawing its way up the slope. It was a novel sensation to hear the engine's voice for us remarks coming at us from behind. From the window as we looked back, we caught occasional glimpses of the fireman hard at work feeding the fire, and we wondered how many hundredweights of coal he needed for the hour's journey up the 4 3/4 miles of mountainside. We watched the rivet of track unrolling before us, sometimes seeming to go down, at others apparently rearing up before us like the side of a house. But we knew our eyes were playing tricks, for there is no downward or even level stretch in the whole ascent, and our engine was working hard the whole time. Upward, inexorably, she pushed our coach over viaduct, past waterfall and isolated farms until we reached the timberline at halfway, above which nothing seems to grow but grass and coarse scrub. Higher till Clugwyn, where even the grass failed, and only favorable days are trains allowed to cross the Wimpstead Ridge, from which we looked down 2,000 shadowy feet to the pass of Llanberis below. We left the ridge and struck the steepest climb of all, up which the engine barked and bellowed in her effort to lift us 1,000 feet in something less than a mile. The line rose above us, steeply disappearing into the skyline. Shouting her challenge to this obstacle, the little engine brought the skyline even nearer till its grim edge faded into the magnificent landscape, and we trundled over the last and easier stretch into Summit Station, the highest in the British Isles. And yeah, basically that article was the inspiration for what became Book 19, which we're going to be talking about today.
Mm-hmm. And pretty much if you also remember too, pretty much in the last story, Stephanie, we mentioned that due to Governor having a hard time illustrating the pictures and everything, pretty much from here on out, it's mostly Peters that's going to be taking over the illustrations for the books. But as we also mentioned too, he is still going to give his wife credit as well too, because when you think about it and everything, like she was still the first one to at least volunteer before asking her husband to come in and help her out and everything.
Yeah, basically from here on out, it's going to be Peter. Peter does 95% of the work from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think Governor helped in some shape or form, because I can't see anything that they.
Honestly, if nothing else, I could definitely see Governor helping out with at least painting the drawings once they're all finished as well.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, their work on this book is still pretty good. This is the first time illustrating the Scarlet. Well, I'll wait until we get to the stories, but I think they still do a good job with this book. Honestly,
they did. They did a decent job as well too. Although there are some illustrations where I'll admit, I'm a little iffy on some of them, but we'll get to them when we get to them.
Yeah, definitely. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the stories. Our very first book to have 4 original stories.
Pretty much, and because you went first last time with Bluebells of England, I'll go first with Mountain Engine. So pretty much with Mountain Engine, we start on the Scarlet Railway and everything, where Sir Hannibal is still having trouble with the coaches and such, to a point where they almost pushed him off the line again and such. So thank God he wasn't anywhere near a mountain and such. But pretty much after that, Scarlet was just I'm gonna kill those bitches one of these days. And Scarlet is just do I need to call the police on you again for harassing my dear coaches? And pretty much Renee is just all right, boys, calm down and everything. Sir Hannibal, you better be lucky that you're not a mountain engine, or else you would fucking die and such. And Sir Hannibal is just the hell is a mountain engine? And Renee is just an engine that climbs mountains, dumbass. And Sir Hannibal is just call me dumbass again one more time. Okay, but pretty much, but pretty much Sir Hannibal is just bullshit, all right? Pretty much if an engine was to climb up the mountain, their own wheels were going to slip and they're going to die. Every day is just it's not bullshit. We actually heard of one just recently and such. And pretty much while they're arguing and everything, that's when Donald comes in and such, and you see a queer-looking engine, that's from the book's words and such. But pretty much, they see a strange-looking engine named Culdee and everything, and pretty much Donald fills the little engines in on who Culdee is and such. And pretty much when Scarlet and Reneus look at Sir Hannibal, he's just big news, all right? I don't believe it. And Donald's just oh, okay, well, why don't you see it for yourself? And let me know when Culdee has turned you into a prick, okay? Bye. and then pretty much as soon as Donald left and everything, Culdee woke up and is just where am I? Have I been abducted? And Scarlet's just no, don't worry, you're here on this railway. You're almost home, actually. Oh, good. And pretty much for the first 2 stories and everything, it's just pretty much an information dump again, just like how it is with Stephanie and everything. Although I will say that the information dump actually felt a lot more smoothly within this book and everything, especially with how nicely it ties in with pretty much comparing the mountain engines to the Scarlet engines, which is something that I will definitely give Wilbur credit for reasons I'll explain a little later. But pretty much and such, when Culdee and everything explains about the mountain railway, what he does, and pretty much how he, and pretty much also explain how engines like him are able to climb out mountains. Pretty much he explains that because of the tracks, the way the tracks are designed, and the way the engines are designed as well too. They're able to climb up. They're able to climb up the mountains very easily because of a rack rail and everything, and because with the little gear in the middle of the wheels and such. They're able to climb up the mountain. They're able to climb up the mountains with ease and such, and are also able to climb down with ease as well too, because they have automatic brakes. And just in case if those fail, then the driver and fireman can also put on the brakes as well too, just in case they need to do any emergency stops. And pretty much Culdee also explains a little bit on how pretty much on how very safe the line is and everything as well too. Which is actually very true, which again, we'll explain more, especially when we get to the second book as well, too.
Except for that one time when the railway opened.
Pretty much except for that one time, but again, we'll mention that when we get to the second book. So when Culdee finally gets done explaining, what his railway does and everything. He pretty much tells the entrance a story one time about how he was scared because just before opening day and everything, an inspector came and chose Culdee to pretty much run the rail and everything and see how well he works. So pretty much as a test run, he pushed 2 coaches up the line and such, pretty much on the steepest mountain they could find and such. And then when they were getting ready to roll back, the inspector told the driver and fireman, "Hey, hands off, all right? If we die, we die. Don't be pussies." and then pretty much Culdee was so scared until he realized, "Oh yeah, I have automatic brakes. Physics don't fail me now." And pretty much once he puts on the automatic brakes, they actually work very smoothly, and he was able to roll down the line just fine. No one got hurt and everything, which pretty much the driver and fireman and even Culdee himself sighed of relief and everything. And the inspector's just like, "All right, Culdee, you'll do well." Well, pretty much he's just turning his head to be like, "Damn it, I almost killed them. I almost got away with murder again." and pretty much actually, yeah, that's where the story ends, with Culdee just basically telling the engines, "I'm not afraid now because I have automatic brakes. I am awesome."
And besides, the line is very safe now because,
Yeah, yeah, but it definitely would have to be, especially like better technology and all that to definitely make the rail. Honestly, I have no doubt that with better technology and everything, the railway is definitely much more safer than probably what it was like years ago and everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now that we have walkie-talkies, it's much more safer as well.
Yeah, pretty much. Which, all right, yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about Mountain Engines. Of itself, it's a very fine story. It's definitely a fine way to introduce a new railway, especially a new again, quote unquote new character, even though he's new to us and everything. He's pretty much a very old engine as well too. That's lived on the railway for a very long time and such. But still, getting to know Culdee and everything, and understanding how a mountain railway works and everything. Woodward actually does a good job on trying to explain how a railway works without making it too complicated or too confusing for kids to understand. Pretty much he's just okay, well, this is how a mountain engine works. This is how they are built, and pretty much this is how they climb and such. And I also do a little the backstory that Culdee tells, just to basically explain how his automatic brakes work and everything, and pretty much just how safe they wanted to make sure this mountain railway would be before they start opening as well too. Which again, we'll get to it when we get to the second story, but yeah, honestly, in terms of story wise and everything, it's pretty good and such. There are definitely a couple of highlights and everything in the story. One is such. I definitely love the little interaction and everything where pretty much Rhaenyra and Scarloy indirectly called Serhano out on being bad manners with the coaches, and Serhano's just no comment while he's looking at his buffers and such.
That line made me laugh so hard. Some engines.
Pretty much. I definitely love how Willie Rushton also narrates that part as well too. Honestly, he did a very good job with the story of himself and everything.
Yeah. Now, before you continue, I was going to mention. Let's get to the elephant in the room in terms of the Culdee Fell engines.
Yeah.
The back faces.
Yeah, okay, so the back faces. So, honestly, as a kid, I was never that creeped out by the back faces and such. Honestly, as a kid, I thought they looked pretty cool, honestly, and such. And when you hear the arguments and everything about how, and pretty much it's always going to become apparent once we get to the second story as well too. But pretty much when you hear the argument about how, pretty much for the most part, the front faces don't really look at a track when pushing and such. So pretty much if they're pulling down and everything, it does make sense for them, in a way, to have a back face, especially if they're coming down the hill and they need to see where they're going, or at least down the mountain and such. When they're coming down the mountain and pretty much they need to see where they're going and everything as well too. It's a pretty interesting concept as such. Although I do understand how even some Thomas fans are just how the fuck does that even work?
Yeah, and I was one of those when I was younger. It's how the hell does this work?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my theory is that there must be a very special lever that either the driver or fireman pulls, and with that lever, pretty much the front face of the engine just morphs into the back of the cab. That's kind of my theory. That's kind of my theory of how that works.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hurt my brain over it, so yeah, proceed. My bad.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But yeah, and honestly, yeah, on that note as well too. Like I said, it is very cool how we get just enough information about the mountain railway itself as well too, and how it operates. And honestly, Culdee's little backstory is very entertaining as well too. Just pretty much like understand like on how like yeah, even he was frightened as well too, which honestly again for good reason, especially with the way the inspector was just like, don't touch that lever. And then pretty much Culdee is like, oh shit, what do I do? Oh yeah, automatic brakes. Please work. And then pretty much once he works, he's just like, oh thank God. Oh. And even the driver of Fireman was just, I'd like to imagine the driver of Fireman look at the inspector and be like, never again.
Ever.
and pretty much I was like to imagine, this is not worth my paycheck. But yeah, the only really nitpicks I will give to the story, there's one small nitpick and everything that doesn't really hurt the story, of itself and everything, but honestly, and like I say, like I'm gonna cut Peter some slack and such, because yeah, this was his first time illustrating the Scarlet Railway and everything, but honestly, I thought Renee's looked kind of off to me in a few illustrations, especially in the first story. I don't know what it was and everything, but looking at like the way like Peter drew him versus like how pretty much on like John D. Kenny like drew Renee's and everything, like it feels a little different to me for some reason. I can't really pinpoint the reason why and such.
He looks a little bit smaller than before. I will give you that.
He does, yeah. And another little nitpick I do have with the story as well too is more so the ending and everything. Like not just with the ending itself and everything, because like honestly, like if the ending like was kept as it is and everything, then like it'd be fine and such. But honestly, with the ending and especially like turning in the page and then literally like both Duncan and Sir Handel shows up, even though Sir Handel like was already in a shed to begin with and everything, like it feels kind of jarring, like when you reread it again and everything, and then pretty much the first story just abruptly ends just like that, and then when you get to the next story, it's the very next day and everything, and then Sir Handel comes again with Duncan and such. So again, it's just a small nitpick. It doesn't really ruin the story for me all too much. But I do kind of wish that like Wilbur would at least like taking a little time just to mention that, like, after Culdee told his story, that the Thin Controller came in and pretty much told Sir Handel just be like, hey, Sir Handel, you're harassing the coaches again? Well, you take some trucks instead. And then pretty much Sir Handel's just like, motherfucker. And then pretty much he just leaves, and that's how the first story ends. But like I said, honestly, like, even with the nitpicks, it doesn't ruin the story all too much for me. And honestly, like with good illustrations and pretty much a decent enough story and everything as well too. Honestly, I am comfy with giving the story an 8. So Mountain Engine gets an 8 out of 10 for me.
Well, guess what?
What?
That's the same rating I give it.
Hey, nice. All right. Well, so far we're in the same rating, 8 on 8 and such.
I really enjoy Mountain Engine, the story, because it fixes the problems that I had with a story like Stepney's Special, where too much information was being shoved down my throat, and basically it does it, but it doesn't overdo it.
Pretty much. I was just gonna say that, like, pretty much, yeah. Like, unlike with like Blue Belts of England and Stepney's Special and everything, like, pretty much with these first two stories, Wilbur definitely has found the right time to pretty much like give just enough information for you to understand part of the Mountain Railway, and then it's just like, okay, well, now I'm going to show you an example about how the automatic brake works by having Culdee tell you what happened when the inspector came and everything. And then pretty much after that, like when you get to the next story, then he gives you just enough information for you to understand like how the Mountain Railway operates, and then again, like Culdee gives you another example about like. About like how the automatic brakes could also fail you as well too if you don't keep a good lookout.
Definitely, and honestly, the comedy was gold in this story, especially with Renee's referencing Sir Handel's problem with the coaches. Like, some engines find it hard to stop. I still
Sir Handel blushed and look at his bumpers. Yeah, same here. Honestly, like I said, the comedy like was really on par and everything. And oh yeah, that's right too. Like. Honestly, like, I think Wilbur made a smart move on, like, pretty much using the Scarlet engines to pretty much introducing the Mountain Railway as well, because when you think about it, and not to be fair, I don't know, like, if this is true on, like, the Tally Flynn Railway or not, But at least on the Scarloey Railway, they do in a way like climb some mountains, or at the very least, like they do at least go over mountains or under mountains as well too. So to pretty much take that concept and have again two wise old engines like Rheneas and Scarloey explain to like still some of the newbie like Sir Handel to explain like, oh yeah, no, like there are engines that can literally climb mountains and everything. Honestly, this is not a move on their part.
When I first read the story when I was, because this was one of the rare books I didn't read until I got the complete collection. I didn't know this story existed till I was 13, and I read it for the first time. The first time I read it, it caught me off guard that it started with the narrow gauge engines at first. But then as I read, I was like, oh, okay, this is a very good setup. Yeah. Nice job, Wilbur.
Yeah, definitely. Because like honestly, like thinking on it, yeah, I don't think it definitely would work if like say like this took place on like Thomas's branch line and everything, because like as far as I know, Thomas never has to worry about climbing up a mountain in the first place.
No,
like
not at all.
Pretty much none of the mainline engines have to worry about mountains at all. So pretty much like it definitely would not make sense to have like to pretty much have like Douglas shun like a mountain engine and just have Culdee explain. Can you imagine if like if Culdee like met Thomas and he explained like the mountain railway, and Thomas just be like, dude, I don't have to worry about mountains at all and everything. Get the fuck off my branch line.
Yeah, I see your point. It wouldn't work. That's why that's why I give props to Wilbur for starting with the narrow gauge engines.
And honestly, as well too, like another thing as well too, like it's very interesting that like that pretty much Donald's the one is also shunning Culdee as well too, which again is another interesting little tidbit as well too. And this is something the Unlucky Tug as well brought up as well too. Like pretty much in the Railway series, like because like Donald Douglas, have pretty much been there and seen all and everything as well too. In a way, when you think about it, like sometimes the twins do provide. They do actually get the plot started as well too, or at least like they provide a setup for the plot as well too. Almost any time that you see them.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I just have to give props to Gumber and Peter Edwards. Besides your nitpick with Rheneas, Rheneas doesn't bother me. He still looks pretty good to me. I fucking love that illustration where you see the Culdee Fell engines climbing the mountain. Do you know what illustration I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. And honestly, that is a very good illustration. And honestly, that and seeing Culdee climbing the railway too with two coaches as well too. It's also honestly that was also very well done in my opinion too.
Yeah, which you may be thinking, why are there two coaches when the other illustrations there's only one? Well, Culdee will explain in the next story. That's all.
Yes, pretty much.
But yeah, I really love the story. It's perfect, and it fixes all the problems I have with a story like Stepney Special or Bluebills of England. And yeah, that's why I give it an 8 as well. It's a really good story.
I mean, yeah, no argument with you right there. It's pretty much a good story, pretty much a good little introduction to the book as well, too. So, all right, well, speaking of the next story, go right ahead. Pretty much it's your turn with Bad Lookout.
Bad Lookout, as Willie Rushton says it. All right, so Bad Lookout starts off the next day with Culdee, Scarloey, and Rheneas talking to each other, and then Duncan steams in, followed by Sir Handel. And Duncan, as usual, is pissed off because the coaches almost pushed him off. And he's angrily ranting about, the thing controller says he didn't. He says I gave a stupid bad lookout. And we've no money to mend you. And if it happens again, I'll put you at the back of the shed and take you to pieces. Why does he always pick on me? It's not fucking fair. That guy is a fucking asshole. Scarloey's like, I've heard this before. And then Rheneas tells Culdee, okay, so as you were saying, you have two coaches. Do you ever take more than that? And then Culdee explains that because their line is so steep, only one is allowed, and every engine has its own. And Culdee's coach is named Catherine, and he knows him, and he knows her well. And they climb the mountain and all that. And then basically they keep talking about how it's difficult to climb up the mountain, and Culdee can't see, so Catherine is basically his eyes. And when they climb up the mountain, there's no need to worry too much because they literally roll down, and climbing is hard work, as he said. And then Sir Handel tells Culdee, oh, you know what? I like that. When you have automatic brakes, you basically take a vacation rolling down. Then Culdee looks at him and is like, that's not a good idea. Remember, you know what happened to Godred? And then basically the other engines.
Pretty much all the other engines are just like, who the fuck's Godred?
And I was playing, quote unquote, I'm going to quote Culdee. Godred was number one, and named after a king, Culdee replied. Perhaps I went into his smoke box and made him conceited. He never keep a good lookout. He rolled down the line looking at anywhere but the track. You'll have an accident, I told him. Poh, he said, I got automatic brakes, haven't I? And driver's got his air brake, what more do you want? More sense from you, I said. No engine can stop at once if he isn't ready to obey his driver's controls. So basically, Godred is a fucking asshole. Because
pretty much he's an asshole and pretty much a stuck up as well too, which is very interesting because like usually sometimes number one engines or at least like the oldest engines are like the wisest, but pretty much here we have probably not necessarily like an old engine per se, but like pretty much like we have an engine that's around the same age as Culdee, but yet like instead of being wise and everything, he's very conceited and literally thinks that like he's a god and that like nothing can touch him and nothing can happen to him.
Which kind of makes me think that when he saw that he was named Godred after a king, he was like, yeah, I'm a fucking god now. Nothing bad is gonna happen to me. Look, I'm a fucking king. Nothing bad will happen to me.
And then pretty much come the next day.
So comes the next day. So Culdee tells the Narc agents that one day he was waiting on the junction for Godred to pass him, but then something happened. One moment he was on the track, the next his driver and fireman jumped clear as he rolled over. So basically, because he was not keeping a good lookout, he basically derailed and rolled down the mountain like a motherfucker.
Pretty much, like he rolled down so fast, so fast and so hard that pretty much he was broken beyond all repair.
Yeah, at least the passengers weren't hurt at the very least.
Sadly, we can't say the same for real life.
Yeah, well,
although we're not saying that like all the passengers died, but sadly one passenger did lose his life in real life.
Yeah, which we'll explain once we finish the synopsis. So they brought Godred home the next day, and because he was beyond repair, they didn't have any money to repair him, so they put him at the back of the shed. And as time went on, poor Godred got smaller and smaller till nothing was left. And basically, and I love this about Ducky. It's like, what happened to him? And Culdee's like, we don't speak of what happened. But what happened? Why isn't it nice to talk about? And then comes the line, and I'll say it right now: our drivers use Godred's parts to mend us.
And then honestly, like I'm gonna get this out of the way right now. I love how Peter like illustrated that final end because like you could pretty much see in both Duncan and Sir Handel's eyes, and they were just like, holy shit, the island of Sodor back then had cannibals?
I love their whole...
I mean, like, pretty much if that story didn't make the ancients shut up and rethink their life, I don't think anything would have at that point.
Yeah, and they basically stayed silent for after... Even after Culdee left, they were silent. But, unfortunately, neither Skarloey nor Renee has ever mentioned that Culdee had made the story up.
I made that story up, yeah.
And that was Bad Lookout. Wow. Just wow.
I mean, guys, if you thought that, like, Blue Belts of England was very dark, you ain't seen nothing with this story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wow. This was awesome, you know. This was awesome. And this story is based on what happened on opening day of the Snowdown Mountain Railway, which is very similar to what happened to Godred, but I'll explain what happened. So basically, it was basically the same thing. On opening day, Ladas pushed the opening train up to Summit Station, and then basically when she was coming down, she basically derailed and rolled down the mountain, and basically she was beyond repair. And unfortunately, one passenger, because I think one passenger was frightened and he jumped out of the coach.
Yeah,
and lost his life due to loss of blood. Unfortunately.
Yeah, so pretty much rest in peace to that one person. If only you just stayed in the coach. But to be honest, like honestly, like if that was anyone else in the situation and everything, like pretty much we can't really like blame like anyone feeling scared at that moment, especially on opening day, no less. Like talk about making a bad first impression on your new railway and such.
Yeah, the railway was forced to close for 1 year until they reopened the very next year because of the accident.
I mean, like outside of that, like I don't think there's ever been like at least like not that we can find, or at least not that I could find. I don't think there's been like any other major accident like that ever since that day and such. Ever since they reopened.
No, and to this day, the Sodor mounting has never renamed an engine lattice.
Pretty much, which to be honest, like we can say that like even with engines, they do respect the dead, which is something to be admirable about.
Yeah, definitely, and I give them props for not actually building another engine and naming it lattice, because that will definitely upset some people, especially after what happened on opening day.
You know what? Yeah. Like pretty much if they did reopen the railway and everything, and and a couple of people that were on Lattice's train saw that like they actually did rebuild or made a new Lattice and everything. I can imagine a lot of people just be like, "Nope, I'm out. It's not worth my money."
Oh yeah, definitely, and I don't blame them. And the same thing happened with the Culdee Fell. The Culdee Fell opened 4 years after the accident with Lattice. They opened in May of 1900. And basically the same thing happened. Godred derails and basically is beyond repair. They closed and they didn't reopen until Easter Sunday 1901. And to this day, the railway has never named another engine Godred. So
pretty much. But yeah, go ahead. So go ahead and go ahead and return to give your thoughts on the book, right. Or at least on the story, I should say.
Yeah, the story. Honestly, the story is amazing. Wow, I like how suddenly it starts off with like you think, oh, okay, it's gonna be more information about the railway, or basically Culdee filling you in on what you missed in the last story, because the last story ended abruptly. He's telling you that he needs plenty of coal and Catherine is his eyes, and then basically when they roll down, it's basically like, okay, we can see perfectly, so we don't need
Pretty much, they don't have to worry about like Catherine also like Morven and Faith behind her as well, and try to look down as well.
Pretty much, and then basically, I love how it's just information. Then suddenly they start talking about Godred, and then basically they just skip straight to the horror, which is basically when Godred derails and basically. He's basically scrapped because the other engines took parts from him.
Yeah, pretty much like we can say that like he's basically scrapped slash killed in a way.
Pretty much, which is very dark, extremely dark.
It is.
The horror that Duncan and Sir Handel must have felt. I would have thrown out right there.
I mean, yeah, same here. I mean, like honestly, like if I was an engine as well too, and like pretty much I learned in the past that like not only did an engine like indirectly killed himself and everything, but it was also being like used for parts as well too. Honestly, I probably would have rethought my life right then and there if I was the train and such.
Yeah, pretty much, and wow, it's sad, but at the same time, I was thinking about.
Honestly, it is a very impactful story that Culdee told in the end, because like I said, if that story alone doesn't give like Duncan and Sir Handel like to rethink their life and everything, then I don't think nothing else would have.
And one thing I forgot to mention about Godred is that he was such an asshole that his driver, fireman, and the manager were like, You're gonna change, or we're gonna take you to pieces. And even when they took him to pieces, he was still a fucking asshole.
You know what? Like, honestly, that's kind of foreshadowing when you think about it, because the driver, fireman, and the owner was just like, all right, boys, take him to pieces. Let's see if we could try and fix him and such. And then pretty much like even when Gartrek like was still the same thing. As soon as that accident happened, the driver, fireman, and owner came up and was like, all right, Gartrek, we're gonna take you to pieces, but you're no longer gonna live.
And that basically, But you know what? Thinking about this, you basically feel like he deserved it, which in a
way, yeah. Like honestly, honestly, there is a good balance on like. Pretty much, like majority, he did deserve it because, like, pretty much Culdee, driver, fireman, and the owner pretty much like, warned Godred that like, hey, you can't take risk, all right? This is not a normal railway. We're literally on a mountain. If you make one mistake, you're going to cost a lot of people's lives. And then pretty much Goddard himself found out the hard way, literally on himself when he derailed, and pretty much like he broke himself beyond repair. So pretty much, yeah, like on the one hand, like I said, majority you do feel like he deserves this ball too. But there's another part of you that, like, sometimes that makes you feel like you can't help but to feel slightly sorry for him, especially with the way that, you know, he was just used and killed just like that as well, too.
Yeah.
As well. So, like, pretty much it's like a good little balance of, like, honestly, I think this is the only, like, Railway series story, like, never mind, like, the whole book, but, like, this is the only Railway series story that really has like a grim, dark ending, and like honestly, you're never going to see anything like this again. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, among Railway series fans, like, not only is this story, but like the book itself is very well remembered because you remember that accident in of itself and everything. And pretty much again, like the way, not only the way it was written, but even really Russian. I got to give him major props for this, but even the way he narrated that story, especially the end, because again, you could definitely hear the quivering in Duncan's voice when he asked, when he was pretty much like begging Culdee to tell him what happened and everything. Pretty much, you feel the impact of that story, honestly.
Absolutely, and it's dark and sad, you know. Basically, and
it is like
an engine didn't follow safety regulations, and look what happened.
Pretty much, like I said, like the only thing that like comes close to like a grim story or at least a dark story was like again like with like a Stephanie's book, Bluebells of England as well too. But even then in that story, pretty much even though it is grim and dark, they're like yeah, all the answers are dead and such, or at least like the majority of them are starting to die and everything. Like pretty much the story still gives you like a happy ending, and that like pretty much Wilbur is telling you like hey, like it's not all bad. There are some people that still like steam engines and actually want to save them and preserve them for years to come as well too. But pretty much like here in this story, it's just like yeah, no, he's dead. Goddard's not coming back ever again.
He's dead. Yeah, pretty.
Which although Wilbur says that, but then again, as Bonnie also said as well too, like apparently Culdee made the story up as well too. So that means Goddard should be alive, right?
No, he's actually dead because he's actually dead. He's actually dead, and let me explain.
Yeah. Go ahead.
To get the true answer as to if he's alive or dead, the answer is he's dead. He's actually dead. The reason why he added this line, and I'm gonna read it. Neither Scarlett nor Renee has ever mentioned that Culdee had made the story up, was because he suddenly felt the ending was too dark, and he decided to quickly make it a little bit of a lighthearted ending.
A lighthearted ending on death. I mean, can you imagine, like, in real life and everything, like, you come up to a little kid, and pretty much one family member is just like, hey, kid, your grandmother has died and everything, and actually, I don't know if I've actually used this example, I'm going to run with it, and then pretty much, like, you know, you feel sad and everything, but then suddenly, like, your mother's just like, oh, don't worry, no, your grandmother's not dead and such, she's fine, and pretty much you're just like, okay, then where is she? And your mother's just like, shit.
Yeah, you know, I have mixed feelings on that because you know he ran with the concept fine on Bluebells of England, but then all of a sudden to take a complete 180 and basically do this, it's a little bit.
Yeah.
How can I put this? I don't know.
I mean, it's okay. I wouldn't say it's like done in poor taste because, like, I understand. Like, I understand where he's coming from. It's like. Pretty much not like just because like you know you didn't want the story to be too dark. I imagine like Wilbur was probably like trying to play it safe as well too, because like you know he probably didn't want to get like angry letters from parents and such. Pretty much if you ever heard like you know the kids crying because like you know because pretty much you know an engine got killed and such. But at the same time it's just like you know kids like and again like just something that like you know some people say and everything as well too, but like. Some kids are definitely smart, and we give them credit for. And some like some pretty much like realize at an early age that like yeah, nobody you know lives forever and everything. Like you know, death's going to be a thing, no matter what you try to do and such. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why like some old Disney films and even like and even Sesame Street itself, talk about death and like pretty much in like a very like mature and like. Yeah, pretty much they succeeded. Like, pretty much they succeeded talking about death in a way that, like, that pretty much, like, no joke. Like, you know, there were a couple of parents that, like, came up to some of the actors. It came up to some of the actors that were a part of that episode. Thank you them very much for tackling the subject of death in a way to where, like, they can actually properly explain it to the kids, and they don't have to worry about the kids feeling having the kids feel like a dramatic experience. Just a case of like they had to experience that themselves as well too, which honestly, like I said, I understand what Wilbur was trying. I do understand what Wilbur was. Go ahead. You finish up.
You were bringing up a good point about Sesame Street, about them tackling that. Have you seen the segment where Big Bird makes a drawing of Mr. Hooper, but then
honestly, that's the one I'm talking about as well too, right there. Yeah,
I was close to crying listening to Big Bird's emotion. I was the way it was handled. It was so beautiful that I honestly almost started crying. It was very well done.
I mean, yeah, I don't blame you because, like I said, like pretty much after that episode aired, like pretty much like Sesame Street and the people behind it, like they pretty much got like tons of praises from parents, like pretty much like thanking them for tackling death and like in a very mature way to where like kids can actually understand it better, and like pretty much the parents can even have a much more easier time talking about it with their kids as well too. Just a case of like something like that ever happened and everything.
Exactly. But anyway, back to what you were saying.
But yeah, so pretty much like I said, like in a way, I don't blame Wilbur too much, but at the same time, it's just like, but at the same time, like honestly, like if you're gonna own up and say that like Godred is dead and he's not coming back, honestly, I do think you should still at least own it. If you want to keep the ending to where like Scarloia and Renee say that like Culdee made the story up, you at the very least you can have like instead of having that line, like you could probably at least have like Scarloia and Renee is thinking that Culdee made the story up, not realizing that Culdee was actually telling the truth and such. Like at the very least, if you did that and everything, then like I'll be fine with it. I'll be fine with it as it is. But to say that like Scarloia and Renee is keeping a secret that like Culdee made the story up, like if you're gonna say that Culdee made the story up, then at the very least you should at least like have Godred appear somewhere at the very least, because if he's not going to appear and if he's not there anymore, then he is dead. Like there is no two ways about it. Because pretty much even in the same book in of itself as well too, like little spoilers, but pretty much in the same book, at the very end of the at the very last story, Culdee pretty much tells the same story to Lord Harry as well too, and pretty much Lord Harry is just like, oh shit, like could that actually happen to me? Oh god, I better start changing my ways now.
All right, so one thing I want to make clear is that it did happen. I'm gonna read it. This is from the Island of Sodor book. You know what book I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
All right, so this is from
so go ahead.
The Sodor book. Godred number 1, Ernest number 2, Wilfred number 3, Culdee number 4, and Shane Duini number 5 were the first batch of engines built in Switzerland and delivered in time for the inspection of the line before its opening in 1900. A few weeks later, however, Godred derailed, scrapped, and never replaced.
So pretty much Wilbur did actually admit that like Godred did die and such. Which again, we can have a whole debate about like the actual ending and Bad Lookout and everything as well too. So again, like to me, like it doesn't really ruin the whole story for me overall. But honestly, like looking at that ending again now and pretty much like looking at that ending again now, thinking on it more critically and like trying to understand where Wilbur would at least trying to understand like where Wilbur was coming from as well. Honestly, like I said, I think he should have just like stick to his guns and just pretty much come out and say that like Godred is dead because like I said, like this is literally not the first children material to tackle death when like Disney of all companies has done like pretty much has done death plenty of times before in their movies over and over again.
Bambi's mother, for example.
Yeah. Pretty much. Bambi's mother, Mufasa. Pretty much Cinderella's real father. I like pretty much like Disney is well known for like tackling death. It's like again, it's pretty much as like mature and as and pretty much as like and powerful as it can be.
And the creme de la creme, how the villain in Tarzan dies.
Pretty much. I mean, like I said, Disney is another company that can handle death like in a very impactful way, and pretty much even with a parent dying as well too. Like Disney still shows that like hey, like just because your parents died and everything as well too. Like pretty much like, yeah, you can still grieve and still mope that your parents are no longer with you, but pretty much like, it can also like impact and like, but it also impact and make those a lot more stronger as well too later in life.
Indeed. Well, I'm gonna give my rating for Bad Lookout before you continue.
Go ahead, because honestly, I think I pretty much said all my piece as well too. But go ahead, give your rating first.
All right, so to me, the ending doesn't bother me that much. It's basically a nitpick to me because honestly, the story is fantastic through and through. And Bad Lookout for me is well, get ready for this. It was originally an 8, but because the story is so good, like I can't fault it too much. Besides the ending being a minor nitpick, Bad Lookout to me is a 9, easily.
Nice, alrighty. Honestly, for me, yeah, like I said, like outside the ending and everything, like again, well, I do have like criticisms with like the ending in of itself and everything as well, or at the very least, like the last line of itself. Again, like I honestly can't deny, because like I said, when I first read the book for the first time, or at the very least, I just say I listened to it. When I first listened to the book the first time, and even came across to like that accent as well too, and even like even again, like thinking on the ending more and more as I got older, like. Again, like it's one of those stories where it's just like the more I read it and the more I understand it, the more impactful this story is, and pretty much honestly the way that like it's set up as well too, pretty much like because yeah, like you said, like at first you think like this is going to be like more information gathering as well too, especially like how coaches work as well. But then as soon as Sir Hano mentions about like how having automatic brakes sounds wonderful. Once you get to like Culdee telling the story about Godred, like pretty much honestly, even at the very beginning in of itself, you have this feeling that something very bad is going to happen. You get this, you really get this feeling that something is about to go down. And honestly, even if you feel the seriousness of it, again, like just the way that it was built up and the way that it finally set up. Pretty much like any kind of bad feeling you had probably made it 10 times more impactful than what you felt the first time. And again, like I had to give major props to Willie Rushton, but like I said, pretty much like especially in the ending where like again you can hear Duncan like quivering in fear, pretty much begging Culdee to tell him what happened to Goddard and everything.
Oh, that moment was handled perfectly by Rushton. I'll give him that.
It was, especially where it was like, what happened? Why isn't it nice?
What happened? Why isn't it nice? Something like that.
Nice. Yeah. Tell me, Daddy, why isn't it nice? And Culdee's just like, whoa, calm down. I'm calm down, okay? I'm just here to tell you that basically our driver's environments were cannibals, and like they had to use Godred's parts to bend us. And then pretty much Sir Handel and Duncan just looked at him, just be like, holy shit. I mean, but pretty much, yeah. And again, it's not just really Russian too, but again, the illustration alone too, with their faces as well. Again, like it really does impact that scene so well. Honestly, you know what? Let me think. Because yeah, like I said, I mean, I still have my gripes with the ending, at least like the way that like Wilbur initially thought of putting it as well. And I need to think, how much does it impact? Because, like I said, it doesn't impact that much to me overall.
To me, at the very least, it impacted.
Yeah.
To me, at least, it impacted me in a good way, because I'm still, every time I come back to the story, the thing that comes to mind is that I want to read about the accident. And the first time I read
Same here, honestly.
It impacted me really badly. Like, wow, he actually died. Oh my god.
Pretty much. Okay, honestly, I'm gonna stick with my original rating. I'm actually gonna give it a solid 8 and such. Okay. I would give it a 9, honestly, but again, like the little ending line and everything. Like I said, it doesn't impact it that strongly, but at the same time, looking at it again and again, like comparing to like other actually, yeah, like when was this? When was this book published again? Like, what was it, like 64?
1964.
Yeah, 1964. That's right. So, So pretty much, like, even before then, like, again, like, with the Disney movies that we had as well, too, that pretty much knew how to handle death as well. Honestly, I still think Wilbur should have, like, stick to his guns and, like, just come out and say and just come out and say that no, Gardner did die in this original book because even though he said it on unlike the Sodor book and all that, like pretty much that book is very expensive, and I don't know how many people are gonna buy that book to read it and such.
Now it's available as a PDF. I basically downloaded it on all my devices, so I can have
that's true. But at the very least, like I said, I think he should have at least had Scarlett and Reneas think the story was fake, because that way, even if he went down that route, Scarlett and Reneas could think the story is fake, but the readers and especially Sir Harold and Duncan could believe that story was real. So you could, that way, I think it definitely would have been a perfect balance if he would have gone that route. But like I said, it doesn't impact the story that much because, I definitely do agree with you. The story is still very strong and still impactful to this day. That honestly, I can't really be that negative towards it. All right, so pretty much the next story coming up is Dangerous Points. Yeah, and Dangerous Points, I'm going to give it a nutshell version. It's just basically the Mountain Engine's own version of Dirty Objects. So pretty much, we start the story with Donald finally bringing Culdee back to his rack rail and everything. And after Culdee came back, immediately he went for a run with Catherine at once and everything. And it's during this run and everything that we learned about a new engine, that actually 3 new engines that actually came on the Mountain Railway while Culdee was away. One being Lord Harry and everything. I believe number 7 was Alice and 8 was Eric, right?
Alaric and Eric. Alaric is 7 and Eric is number 8.
Alaric, okay. Alaric 7 and Eric 8. Okay. And pretty much, yeah. So this is when his 2 old friends, Wilford and Ernest. Pretty much Wilford being number 3 and Ernest being number 2, or did I get that mixed up?
All right, let's see. Ernest is number 2 and Wilfred is number 3. Yep, you got it right.
Okay, okay, so I am right there. Good, okay. But actually, yeah, you guys, before we continue, you guys are probably wondering, what the hell is number 5? And pretty much, much like in real life, by the time the book came out, number 5 pretty much was away being mended, so we actually never get to see number 5 in the book. Yeah, pretty much, we never get to see him. Pretty much, I was just going to say, we never see number 5 in the book, and pretty much, if you want to get even darker, you could probably say number 5 also probably got killed. No, that's why I've never seen him.
The reason why number 5 is not there is because when Alaric arrived in May of 1962, and Culdee arrived, that's when Culdee arrived, that was basically the railway's chance to send Shane Duini away to be mended. He was the very last of the original 5 to be mended. That's why you don't see him in this book. And you don't see him in any kind of railway series, stories.
Well, actually, that and that, and at the very least, I do know that I believe, I think Wilbur might have mentioned it a little bit in the foreword, if memory serves.
Yes, I think that's because he arrived. Alaric arrived, and then basically Shane Duini was taken away to be mended. He was the very last of the original engines to be mended.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't one of the original Snowdown Mountain engines got scrapped a few years ago or something like that?
2 of them, two of them got scrapped, and I'll explain who they were. Number 7, Ralph Snader, I think that was his name, and Eri, that's his name. They were scrapped because by that time they had 2 diesels. They had 2 diesels on the railway, and they're basically like, there's no need for 8 engines anymore. We have 2 diesels, so what's the point of having 8 engines? 7 engines. Yeah. So they basically, when their boiler ticket expired, boiler tickets basically when they basically have to go through a process where the boiler is A-OK to run the engine. As soon as their boiler ticket expired, both engines were taken out of service immediately. Which is a shame because I love, and I'm saying this honestly, I love the design, their design, with the superheaters. I love that design a lot.
Yeah. So pretty much leads to the real engines. Rest in peace.
Yeah, but I don't blame the Snowdown Mountain Railway for doing that because what's the point of having 7 engines when you have 2 diesels, alongside the steam engines?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
that's true. But anyway, yeah. So finally, going back to the story. So pretty much after Wilford, after Ernest and Wilford, pretty much informed Culdee who Lord Harry is. That's when Culdee finally meets Lord Harry, and again, pretty much take it from Dirty Objects. Pretty much Culdee is Toby and Lord Harry is James, and that pretty much they learned that Lord Harry is the type of guy that really likes to take risks. really more so just to show off and everything because he's the cool engine and everything. And pretty much when Culdee tries to tries to get some sense into Lord Harry, Lord Harry is just like, God, pretty much Lord Harry is just like, it's nothing really. Like I'm just a hot-headed little dickhead and everything. And Culdee is just like, well, you are a dickhead. I will give you that. Lord Harry is just like, how dare you? And then pretty much, yeah. So again, take it from Dirty Objects. Pretty much, Lord Harry is ready to climb up the mountain and everything. And actually, is he climbing up or climbing down?
He's climbing up, actually.
Okay, so yeah, pretty much he is climbing up the mountain and everything, and pretty much his coach is like, hey, be careful, okay? Like, we're on a mountain railway again, people could die. And Lord Harry is just like, watch this, all right? I'm gonna be so cool. And then pretty much here comes the telephone, and the owner's just like, yeah, Lord Harry fucked up.
Wait. Let's do the joke. Culdee's resting, and then.
Okay. Culdee's just like, let me guess, a new engine? Yes. He does something stupid? Yes. I need to take the truck. Yes. Can I bring Catherine? No. Okay.
Let's go get
it. And then pretty much, yeah. Culdee brings a truck full of workmen and everything, and pretty much like Culdee is like somewhere at the top of the mountain, or at least like Lord Harry. Lord Harry is at the very top of the mountain, so much so that like it literally took all night just to find him and everything. And pretty much once they do finally find him and everything, they come to find out that literally Lord Harry derailed from the points and everything. And pretty much again, take it from Dirty Object because we also see Wilfred and such. Pretty much Culdee and Wilfred have a playful little banter where Culdee's just like, hey, who's this engine right here? Oh, that's Lord Harry. Oh, no, that can't be Lord Harry, all right? This guy looks like a dumbass and everything. Lord Harry is way more cool. He would never do anything so simple and so stupid like this. And pretty much the coach is like, yeah, take that. And pretty much Lord Harry is just like, police, I'm getting harassed, police. I mean, that's literally what the book is saying as well, too. Like, honestly, the first time I read the line about, like, you know, the passengers hovering around and Lord, like, hit, like, angry bees, and pretty much Lord Harry's just feeling like harassed. I was just like, oh, okay, so I guess you can't get harassed on the island of Sodor. Good to know.
You guys just getting harassed. Look at that.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess I just can't get harassed. So who knew? So, well, too bad for Lord Harry. It looks like the police are nowhere to be seen in the mountain. So good luck there. But pretty much, yeah. So as soon as Lord Harry is finally being let back onto the track and being put back home, at first he tries to come up with an excuse, but the owner's just like, if I hear one more excuse from you, you're gonna be next for the cutting. And pretty much Lord Harry just shut himself up, and pretty much that's where the story ends. Just pretty much gives like a little ending to pretty much let the readers guess on like what's gonna happen to Lord Harry in the very next story.
Yeah, a quick correction before you get into your thoughts on the story. Number 7 from the real life. Number 7, the number 7 engine from real life is named Ralph. My bad. Not Ralph Snyder. It's Ralph. Just Ralph.
Ralph. Okay. So pretty much just like, oh, just put an R, but just put an R in the beginning.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, yeah. So I don't have too much to say on Dangerous Points, to be honest, because like I said, it's just pretty much like Mountain Engine's own version of like Dirty Objects, where pretty much we get a conceited engine meets an old wise engine, or a wise engine like pretty much calls the conceited engine out on the bullshit. It gets the conceited engine pretty much like hot headed and everything, thinking that like what does that old fart know about anything? And then pretty much like he gets his comeuppance, and the old engine pretty much has the last laugh and everything. So it's a pretty much straight and simple story, all things considered and everything. And honestly, there are some parts I do enjoy. I actually did enjoy the I enjoyed both interactions between like Culdee and Lord Harry, especially at the end too. Like when we get to the rescue scene in of itself, and I definitely do like how Willie Rushton made the coaches giggle as well too. That moment, I will admit, is actually very cute, and honestly, just based on the illustration itself, I really do love the nighttime scene with Dangerous Points as well. Like pretty much Peter really did a phenomenal job with that illustration right there.
And you can see you can see the anger in Lord Harry's face.
Pretty much, you can see the anger and you can see the amusement face on all the other engines as well too, which is pretty hilarious in of itself.
Indeed.
In terms of Lord Harry, in of itself and everything, his introduction is fine. Pretty much just gives you like just enough information about like who this character is, and pretty much just how much of a daredevil he really is, and everything as well too. And pretty much like how he handles the job when compared to like Culdee and such. And honestly, like this, the story also does give just enough more of like character information about who Culdee is himself as a character. Because, like we said, or at the very least, like Culdee's pretty much a mix of like Scarloy, and that like pretty much he's a very wise engine and has known and seen everything. But he pretty much also has like Toby's personality, and that like pretty much like he's not afraid to like to pretty much like tease or like call engine out if they're like being conceited or like they don't know any better as well too. And then pretty much once that engine gets into an accident as well too, then that's pretty much like when Culdee's just like, oh yeah, I'm never gonna have some fun with you tonight. So yeah, like I said, honestly, I don't have too much to say on the story. It's fine in of itself and everything. Pretty much illustration wise is also pretty good as well too. And honestly, like this is another story where I'm just gonna give it another 8 because, like I said, I don't really have anything bad to say about it and everything, but I don't have too much to say on it at the same time overall. But honestly, I definitely did have a lot of fun with this book, and definitely, like I can say, like it is definitely a story that like you definitely do need to read if you want to like complete the whole book, especially like with the last story coming up real soon.
Yeah, definitely. Danger Points to me is the highlight of the book. Like this is the funniest story in the book, and honestly, it's just so satisfying to see Lord Harry get his stupid comeuppance because literally he almost went the same path as Godred, only much worse.
Right. Honestly, Culdee is just not Culdee, but Lord Harry is actually just very lucky that he only derailed off the points and he quickly stopped, because if he did not stop, then he was definitely going to suffer the same fate as Godric right there. And honestly, now as you mention that, it makes the beginning of the next story all the more powerful too when you think about it.
Definitely, and yeah, I just love Lord Harry. I just love how he's such an asshole. He's such an asshole that you can't help but to laugh when he gets his comeuppance. And at the end of the story, you're left with such a sour taste in your mouth. Just like, ugh, I wonder what's gonna happen to him. And if something happens, can you please put him? Can you please make him go away? But yeah, I don't have too much to say on Danger Points. Danger Points is just a fantastic story, and I also love this line right here. I'm gonna read it. I also love this line.
Go ahead.
All right. There's no risk while in my superheat. Oh, it's superheat, is it? I'd have it said it was conceived myself. Lord Harry snorted furiously away. That was perfect. A perfect comeback. Yeah. That was an excellent.
It was. It was. It definitely was. I can't deny that right there.
Yeah. Danger Points. All right. So yeah, I don't have too much to say on Danger Points. To me, did you give your rating over Danger Points?
I did. Pretty much like I said, it's another story where I gave it an 8.
Okay. Well, for me, Danger Points, it's also a 9.
Alrighty,
I love the story. Okay. I love the story so much. It's so funny, and every time I come back to this book, Danger Points is a must read for me.
Alrighty, well, like I said, I definitely don't blame you, because like I said, there is definitely a lot to. Honestly, like I said, there's definitely a lot to enjoy with Danger Points and of itself and everything. And yeah, like I said, I can't really find any like major faults with it. So pretty much, yeah, it's definitely a good story in of itself.
Indeed. And well, now we're on to the final story.
Devil's Back. Take it away.
All right, let me get in position here. All right, so Devil's Back starts up with Lord Harry being punished, and one of the punishments was that they took his name away, which actually happened in real life to his real life counterpart, and they put him at the back of the shed.
Yes, they did.
And then basically, when he's at the back of the shed, he soon hears a Culdee story about Godred, and he's like, that can't happen to me. And then basically he begs the manager, is like, please sir, I'm sorry, please let me go out again. I'll try to be different. But then the manager's like, the passengers don't trust you, motherfucker, so you're gonna take the truck instead. And well, now he's not Lord Harry anymore, he's now number 6. Yeah, so now number 6 takes the supplies to the summer hotel, and he took gangers to them on the home in the evening. And basically, he finds the job very boring. But then Wilfred is like, "It's a very important job, you know. And have you ever been on Devil's Back and when there's a strong wind and Lord Harry's like, no, but I do see what you mean, and I need to quote this from the book. A mile below the summit, the line runs along a rocky ridge. Always there is wind. Sometimes it is gentle, and others it is fierce and very dangerous. But whatever the weather, storage trains and rescue trains must get through. So whatever happens, if it's no matter if it's very windy or if it's not windy at all, any type of rescue train or storage train needs to get through because it's very important, as you know.
Pretty much.
And then one day, Lord Harry's taking the truck to let me see where it was, to the halfway point, and then suddenly the telephone rings, and there was basically a climbing accident, and so so Lord Harry's basically told to take the rescue train along with the doctors up Devil's Back. And then basically just gonna summarize it real quick. Basically, Lord Harry climbs up Devil's Back in a huge gale, and the wind starts to pick up even before he starts climbing Devil's Back. And when he climbs Devil's Back, the wind is very strong to the point where it wants to push him and the truck off. But Lord Harry keeps going and going and going until eventually he reaches the summit station. Then the rescuers are taken to the hospital, and then the next day, the leader of the rescuers comes to the shed to thank the engines and their crew, and then basically he's like, we'd be honored if you named the engine Patrick for his bravery. And the manager smiles and says, well, number 6, would you like that? And he's like, and number 6 is like, oh sir, yes please. And then basically number 6 is named Patrick, and now his name is Patrick, and now Patrick and the others are all good friends. And basically Patrick has learned that it's very stupid to take risk to show off. And that's Devil's Back.
Pretty much.
Now, Devil's Back to me, it's not a bad story. It's still a good story. But I think Devil's Back is kind of the weakest out of the 4.
Honestly, I kind of agree with you right there. Honestly, I'm on the same boat with you. Is that like, honestly, it's definitely not a bad story, not by a long shot and everything. But definitely compared to the last 2 endings that we've seen in season 3 so far. So far, this might be the weakest a little bit, but definitely not by much. Definitely not when compared to the other, and definitely not compared to the other endings we've seen from the other books previously.
It's still an entertaining story, a very entertaining story, and it's nice to see that number 6. So I'm just gonna call him Lord Harry just for the sake of it. It's nice to see that Lord Harry had a change of heart, and he actually tries to make it up to them, but the passengers don't trust him. So at the very least, he's given a second chance, which Godric didn't have. Yeah. Which Godric did not get after what happened. So Lord Harry.
Thank God he was given a second chance as well too, and pretty much even though he found the truck. Honestly, now that you mention it, you also see the progression growing a little bit, especially in the middle of the story, because pretty much even though he found taking the supplies very boring as well too. Once Culdee started mentioning Devil's Back and how pretty much how very hard it is just to climb on the mountain, pretty much you could see Lord Harry, or number 6. Pretty much you could see Lord Harry thinking and actually slowly agreeing with Culdee and understanding where he's coming from. Honestly, there is a little character growth you do get to see in number 6 throughout the story in of itself.
Indeed, and by the end of the story, after he basically survives the strong winds and he gets to Summit Station, you can't help but feel proud for him. Granted, it's not a strong ending, but still, you feel like he's had a change of heart at the very least, and the fact that he's renamed.
Yeah, pretty much, because pretty much I can't imagine I can't imagine that Lord Harry was both trying to be brave, but I can imagine he was also being probably being very scared as well too, especially with the way the way was trying to push him and his truck off the mountain as well too. But but instead he was no, I must do it. All right, I don't care what happens to me. I need to make sure the people are safe because that's what the owner wants me to do and such. And honestly, that is actually very admirable of him to do so.
Indeed, and the fact that he's renamed Patrick, a different name for his bravery, that to me is a very satisfying ending. Granted, it's not a very strong ending like what happened with Bad Lookout, But at the very least, you do get the sense that Lord Harry, now Patrick, has had a change of heart, and he's now a changed engine at the very least.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
So Devil's. So I don't have too much to say. I don't have too much else to say on Devil's Back. It is the weakest out of the four, but not by much. It's still a great story, and after talking about it, you know what? I'm gonna give it an 8 because originally I was gonna give it a 7 because I felt it wasn't as strong as the previous 3 stories. But after talking about it and the fact that now we understand that he was lucky to be given a second chance, because Godric got no second chance at all.
Well, I mean, technically, you could say Godric was given a second chance when he took into pieces the first time. But pretty much once Godric used that second chance up, the owners were just like, "All right, well, if that's how you're going to be, farewell."
And he died, and he basically got killed.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
And the fact that he heard the story, and he basically was like, yeah, you know what? Please, sir, I'm sorry. Give me a second chance. I'll try to be different. And when he starts off his second chance, you get the sense that he hasn't changed at all. But then as the story progresses, you see that he's changed. That he's changing. Has a change of heart, and then by the end, you can't help but feel proud for him after what he did. Climbing Devil's Back in the gale, and after seeing him being brave, you can't help but also feel proud when he gets a new name as well.
Pretty much, yeah. Honestly, I definitely agree with you right there. So pretty much you're giving Devil's Back an 8, right?
Yeah, to me, Devil's Back is an 8 easily.
Okay. All right. Well, for me and everything, honestly, now that we're talking about the story as well too, in of itself, like honestly, I've also started my views on this story as well too, because yeah, like you, when I read Devil's Back the first time and everything, like I was actually kind of worried that I was going to view this book like as the weakest one, because I'll be honest, like the first time I read Devil's Back and everything, I didn't get the sense that Lord Harry really changed all that much and such, like. Like the first time I read it and everything, I felt that the change came off as pretty weak and there was no build up to it and everything. But as soon as I started listening to the audio, especially the third time when listening to it again and everything, and pretty much thinking on it long and hard, my thoughts on the story actually slowly started to change, and I slowly started to see that actually no, Wilbert actually did try to pretty much give Lord Harry a character arc, a character redemption and everything. And honestly, this is something that honestly he really should have done with Daisy and Percy's predicament, because pretty much Bonnie and I we were ready to compare this with Percy's predicament. But then but now that Bonnie's brought up some really good examples explaining the process and how Lord Harry's redemption arc was coming and everything, pretty much I can safely say that Lord Harry definitely had a much better redemption story than Daisy, honestly, because
Daisy had no redemption story, because it was hinted that it was gonna happen, but then it was wasted because because Wilbur still needed to tell the story with Percy and such, and because he focused too much on Percy, then pretty much he only gave Daisy one job, and that was just basically work hard after Percy's accident. And at the very end, the reward in the way felt earned a little bit, but not too much to a point where it's you felt like she really did grow. Whereas here in Devil's Back and everything, as Bonnie said, pretty much just Culdee told Lord Harry that pretty much it's very easy for him to lose the second chance. That's when Lord Harry was just you know what, he's right. I got to start shaping myself up, become a better engine, and you know what, give me another chance. I will prove my worth. And yeah, pretty much as Bonnie said, even though at first at number 6 or Lord Harry, pretty much. You think he's going to go back to his old self, especially when he of himself found his new job to be so boring. Once Culdee actually started talking about Devil's Back and everything and how important that is, again, you slowly do see the growth. You do see Lord Harry second guessing himself and being you know what, maybe this job isn't really all that boring as I thought it would be. And actually, yeah, the setup right there, it's actually very good, especially when you get to the ending as well too.
and pretty much like when number 6 is being called into action and he has to like save the rescuers. Honestly, the illustration with like number 6 and the truck like being like struggling just to make it past Devil's Back and everything, that's a good illustration right there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, honestly, it's another moment where it's just like, now that I'm thinking about it, honestly, like honestly, I wouldn't say it's as strong as the one in Bold Out and everything, but it's still strong enough to where pretty much like you do feel the action happening and everything as well too. Now, granted, like this is one of the reasons why I felt like this was going to be the weakest story. Like I felt that like while the action was good, like it wasn't enough to keep me interested, or at the very least, like I felt like there should have been maybe like a little more action here and there, because like the whole rescue scene kind of felt slightly rushed to me, to where like it didn't. To where like to where like it didn't feel as impactful as say like Gallo Engine or again like Bold Out and such. But at the very least, I will agree with Bonnie and like the award still felt earned in a way. It definitely felt very earned because you did see that like that like number 6 was just like, you know what, I'm taking a risk not because I'm showing off, but because the passengers need me, or at least the rescuers need me and such. And honestly, yeah, like the ending in of itself as well too, and you definitely do feel like that Lord Harry finally knows what it means to be like, a mountain engine. He finally learns that like, you know what, you're right. I can't take risks just because I want to show off. I gotta take risk if I need to take risk, if there's no other situation for it. Which, honestly, yeah, like it perfectly does wrap up the story in of itself and everything as well too. That honestly, you know what, I'm on the same boat with you. Like honestly, this whole book, like it's gonna get. This whole book is getting another 8 for me as well too, an 8 out of 10. Honestly.
Yeah. Wow. So basically, wow. I wasn't expecting you to give it an 8. I was expecting like a 7 before we started recording. But wow, I'm glad I was able to change your views on the story a little bit.
Yeah, because honestly, like looking at it again with like Mountain Engines, like this is more like a sneak preview before we give our overall feelings. But looking at Mountain Engines in of itself, you know what? Like I do, because Bonnie also did mention this to me as well too, and honestly, this was something I was also thinking about. Like I just wanted the big like drawbacks with the book as well too. But pretty much, I do understand why some people say like the book like is kind of almost not needed, especially like seeing that like I said, this is the only book featuring these characters in of itself and everything. And because of that and everything, Wilbur had to try very hard to make you like to make you grow attachment, or at least like make you like these characters as best as he could, pretty much with the space he was given to write as well too. And honestly, like at first, like I wasn't too sure if he succeeded in that, but now that we're talking about these stories, and I'm definitely talking about it with you and discussing it with you, I think Wilbur did enough to basically give you just enough information about these characters to where like you can actually remember them as best as you can and such. Maybe not as strong. I was gonna say maybe not as strong as some of the other characters and everything, but for what Wilbur did and everything, like he gave just enough information to give each engine their own character to stand out and such.
Indeed, and especially look what he did with Godred. Many people remember
pretty much like
what happened to Godred.
I mean, for good reason as well too, because like I said, when rereading the story and even putting the pieces together as well too, like just to get to the ending, like again, like Wilbur has shown that like he definitely can be a good writer and such. He definitely can be a good writer, and especially for the book where this is the only chance we're going to see the Mountain Engines. I mean, hey, you know what? I think this book is all that we need to know about both the railway and the engines themselves. Like. Honestly, like I'm kind of glad that like Chris never really did a follow up to this book, because honestly, there's not really much you could do with these engines up until this point now. Like we pretty much know all about the engines and the railway in of itself. That we don't need any more information than this, honestly.
Yeah, I think this book works better as one book and that's it, because there's not much you can do with them. Due to stricter safety regulations. There's not much to do with them. You can't disobey safety regulations just for the sake of a goddamn story.
Pretty much, like pretty much, like I said, like because like they are in like a very secluded part of the island when compared to like all the other railways, like that of itself too, and like there's also not too many locations for them to work off as well too to make another story out of them.
Indeed. And well, let's get to the final scores. I'm really looking forward to seeing what our final score is.
All right, I think I went first with Stephanie, right?
Yep. So I'm gonna go first.
Okay. All right, so let's recap. So I believe I know you gave like Mountain Engines an 8. You gave Bad Lookout a 9, right?
Yep, correct.
And you gave Danger Points a 9 as well.
Correct.
And I know you just recently gave Devil's Back an 8. So pretty much your final score is a 34 out of 40, which means for your score is a high B, pretty much an 85%. So yeah, Mountain Engines for you gets a B.
Ooh, all right. Not what I was expecting, but I'm still very satisfied. Wow.
Yeah, same here. And honestly, for me, like I think I know what I'm going to give as well too. But yeah, pretty much throughout the whole 4 stories, I gave them nothing but 8s. So pretty much, 4 times 8, 32. So 32 out of 40. And my final score is also a solid B, a solid 80% right here. So yeah, both you and me have given Mountain Engines a B. And actually, hey, you know what? I just said that like it was no longer going to be like my number 1 favorite story, but honestly, looking back on it and everything, like I could definitely remember why I actually really did love the story the first time around, because yeah, it's like you said, this is like the first book where it's just pretty much is all original stories. Like not one of these stories was from the TV series, and because of that, I think that's what makes this book, at least to me, very special. Because not only are we getting like new original stories, but we're getting a brand new railway that we literally never seen on the TV series ever. And honestly, I think it was just for that fact alone, and even reading this story, is what made this book stood out for me a lot. Even to this day, like pretty much if you were to tell me the railway series and everything as well too, like pretty much I definitely would have been gushing about Mountain Engines like over and over again. And honestly, yeah, while there are still like small faults in of with some of the stories, like the faults of the stories do present, they're not really all that major, honestly. Like pretty much the faults that the stories do have, like they are nothing compared to like some of the very great and very like impactful like moments this book gives to you overall and everything.
Definitely. I have to agree with you. I have to agree with what you just said. For this being like our very first original book that never got adapted to TV, it's still a great book nonetheless. I can understand why they decided not to adapt them, because, like I said, and I've already repeated this like 3 times, there's not much you can do with them. You can only adapt the stories that Wilbur wrote for this book, and that's it. You can't do much with
pretty much. And honestly, you know what? Pretty much after reading and learning like how much of a nightmare the Scarloy Railway was for the crew during season 4, I would kind of hate and both love to see like just how much more of a nightmare like pretty much like the Mountain Engines would have been for the crew if they ever did bother to adapt them into television. And honestly, especially I would love to see how Britt and David would have made like clay models for like the for the engines back caps and such. That definitely would have been very interesting to see.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I think that's another reason why they didn't bother with adapting it, because they felt their shapes were like too not very merchandisable as well. Even though Ertl and Wooden Railway thought so otherwise.
Which honestly, you know what? Like, I do have to get props to those merchandise as well too, because like, hey, like I'm pretty sure that those toys alone, like, probably were the reasons for like kids that probably never read the Railway series, like, want to try to find these engines, want to try to see like, probably want to try to see like where do these engines come from? Are they like original engines or something? And like, like they're probably the reasons why like they started reading the Railway series to begin with and such.
Indeed. And well, ladies and gentlemen, this was Mountain Engines. Wow,
pretty much.
I went into this book, I was exhausted after Stepney's book. I'm gonna say this first of all. Mm-hmm. I was very exhausted after Stepney's book that I just avoided reading Mountain Engines for a while, because I got so burnt out, and not to mention that between a storm and me starting college, I was basically like a little bit burnt out to the point where it's like, you know what, let me take a small break and then I'll come back to it. And it wasn't until yesterday that I finally got around to reading it, and I don't regret it at all. It was magical returning to this book. I loved it.
I mean, same here. I mean, honestly, you know what? Like, I'm pretty sure I probably said this before, or at least like hinted at it, probably from the very beginning, since we did the Railway series podcast. But pretty much, I've been looking forward to this book nonstop and everything. And honestly, I was on the same boat with you, at least in terms of like troublesome engines, and that by the time I did finally read the book, and like I knew and I knew going in that like I was gonna have to think about these stories critically and everything, and pretty much when I started reading them and everything, like at first I was running into the same problem I had with like Stephanie's book, where I was just like, what am I gonna say to these stories? And I mean, like in a way, like looking back on it now, I think it was probably because like I read these stories so much and everything. Like whenever I was in the Railway series mood and everything, I've read these series I've read the books so much and everything that like I was afraid that like I was gonna have nothing to say on the book in of itself. And even when I was starting to think about the faults, like the stories did provide themselves, like again with the ending of Bad Lookout or the ending of like Mountain Engines and of itself and everything as well too. I was no joke. I was honestly very like both afraid, but also very interested in that. Like, am I literally going to give Mountain Engines a C or something? I guess I was very prepared to give this book another C if that was going to be the case and such. But honestly, like reading the story again the third time, and even now, like now that we're talking about it, you know, live at least in terms of like recording and everything, like pretty much this conversation and like reviewing the book has definitely helped me remember why I love this book to begin with, like when I first read it and everything. Now, I will admit, I probably did overhype myself on the book too much and everything, and it probably may not be as grand or as great as I was making it out to be. But honestly, looking at it again, reading this book again, just like I said and everything, like I think Wilbert made the right choice. I think both Wilbert and Chris made the right choice of like just keeping this book as it is, never making a sequel, and also, I'm very glad that pretty much the TV series never decided to like adapt these stories as well too, because honestly, just leaving them as it is as a book, and even just like giving the three engines their own little toys as well, I think that's all you need to pretty much like set an example like who these mountain engines are, and pretty much like how special this book is overall to like the whole Railway series in of itself as well too. Because honestly, yeah, there's not much you could do with them, but for as much as Wilbur did with this book, I think he did enough to pretty much show like just how grand like this railway is overall.
Now you see what happens when you overhype a book, because look what happened with Gordon the Big Engine.
Yes, I do see. I do understand. I do understand how you overhype the book. So I'm gonna try not to do it too much. Although I will say there is another book in the series coming up real soon that I am also looking forward to reviewing and such, but again, I'm going to try not to overhype myself too much on it and such.
Is it from season 3, right?
Yes, it is still from season 3, and honestly, I'm going to make you guys guess. No, I'm not even going to give you any hints. I'm going to make you guys guess on practically what other book in the season I'm probably looking forward to the most and such.
And I'm going to do the same.
And honestly, I think that book in season 3 is probably definitely going to get a definite S out of me. But again, I'm not even going to give any hints. You guys are going to have to guess on your own.
And I'm also going to do the same thing. There's another book coming up that might get an S, but I'm not going to give any hints as to which book it is. You'll have to wait and see. And also, one more thing, I'll look out for a behind the scenes video that we're going to do very soon, which I'm honestly looking forward to doing it, because I honestly like to teach people how to do stuff, because it's so much fun, going through the process of how everything works, and how we do things, and then basically people can follow along if they want to do their own stuff,
Pretty much, yeah. Same here, honestly.
So yeah, be on the lookout for a behind the scenes video coming up very soon. We don't know when yet, but very soon. So anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching episode 20 of the Really Useful Podcast on Mountain Engines. This one was fun. This one was a lot of fun, and the fact that it took me up until yesterday to read the book, goes to show you how much of a burnout Stephanie's book gave me.
Pretty much, and I mean, honestly, like I said, this was definitely a very special book for us as well too. And like I said, we also did hint that there's another book actually that never got adapted into the TV series. However, unlike Mountain Engines, we're going back to a railway that we're all so familiar with, and we're also going to celebrate by the time the book came out its 100th birthday.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, tune up with us next month when we take a look at Very Old Engines, another book I'm very, very excited to read.
Same here. Honestly, I'm very looking forward to this book as well too. So, because like I said, I love the Scarlet Lorry engines, and honestly, I'm very much eager to start reading this book as soon as possible.
Same here. So anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching episode 20 of the Really Useful Podcast. If you guys enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you guys want to see more episodes of the podcast, hit the subscribe button as well. Now, before we go, I just want to pin a few things. Make sure to check out our Wiggles podcast. It's a Wiggly Wiggly podcast. If you like the Wiggles, and also yes. another update. Every episode of Thomas and Friends season 9 review finally has entered the script writing process. By the time this comes out, we're in the middle of watching the season for the third time.
Yes, and pretty much by the time this episode comes out, around September and such, hopefully we'll probably almost be finished with the book, but pretty much only time will tell.
Yeah, pretty much only time will tell. So anyway, guys, this has been Bonnie with
Sodor the Diesel, saying
thank you for watching, and we'll be seeing you guys next month when we take a look at very old engines. So until then, folks, take care of yourselves, and see you next month.